Welcome, everybody, to another week of Wealth Wisdom, where we're helping you build wealth and legacy.
Companies are like an organism trying to survive.
It's always a risk when you're investing in a company that's purely tied to someone's brand.
45% of Americans have gone into debt for a Disney trip. Welcome back to Wealth Wisdom, where we help you protect your financial wealth and legacy. I'm your host, Justin Obie, and today we have Bill Ryan, Eric Benz, and our very special guest, Carolann Brown, with us. Today's election day at the time of recording here in the United States, and I thought I'd start with this fun statistic. Since 1928, there's been 17 presidents, 9 Republican, 8 Democratic, and there have been 15 recessions. Yet the Dow Jones Industrial Average has moved from 200 to 42,000 since 1928. It's just continuously going up, highlighting a bunch of things.
Volatility in between, but yeah, there
Right,
is.
hence the 15 recessions. I love that quote today on election day.
I've lived through all of them.
Just got to be invested in the long term, no matter whether you have a sitting Republican or Democratic president. How are you guys doing today? How's everyone doing?
Good.
Carolann's been busy.
We're waiting for the news.
Yeah.
I think I've had
Oh, I
like
bet.
42 calls
Yeah.
this morning.
Well, been concerned at all? Or
I had called a lot of people and talked to them this week and last week and asked them to call me if they had to pull out money or if they were nervous. They all decided to wait till the last day to call. Fortunately, they were all done with their phone calls by
Naturally.
11 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Finished.
Carolann's clients have been with her a long time. They're not panicking and pulling
No.
money, really. Like,
How
she's
long-
coached them up.
How long have you been?
We-
Man.
Well, 40 years, 39 years. And I've been a portfolio manager most of that time. I've been in that business for a long time. So I've ridden through lots of ups and downs and major crises.
Yeah.
And we all survived. And like you said, it's better to stay in most
Yeah,
of
when
the time.
I find it so emotional, right? And it can be like the human tendency to markets are going down. It's like, I want to jump ship. And I'm sure you provide so much
Yeah.
emotional stability for your clients, having seen it all.
In 87, I was commuting from Washington, D.C. to Puerto Rico every week. We were up 37% and doing great. I was looking at my computer. I said, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's the one thing that I've carried through my career. I don't have a crystal ball. So I put in stop losses at 5% before I get in the plane. So I'm in the airport and I'm at my office first and I'm putting all these stop losses. And I landed and my husband picked me up and said, Carol, you wouldn't believe it. The market's down 20%. I called up all my clients that weekend and I said, I'm changing to flat fee. You asked me what was the best thing I did. Changing to flat fee was great because then my clients never had to worry if I did things for the wrong reason. I earned more commission that day than I had in the 7 years I was already in the market. I got back on Monday and I said, I'll buy everything back. There'll be no fees, no commissions. The market was then down the worst crash we had since 1929. I was very fortunate. It was luck. But the one thing it taught me is you have to have a strategy in place for any kind of scenario. And I really am a big believer in that. So that was my introduction to the world of stocks. Before that, I was a Ginnie Mae trader.
Just so you would put stop losses, meaning if the market dropped, it would automatically
Yes.
sell at that time.
Yep.
I
And
sold
then you
off.
got on the plane and
Everything sold out. It was really kind of scary. But I will tell you, the problem with this market, I feel, stop losses aren't going to work. If the market's too volatile, I had a lot of puts in 1999 and 2000, and they worked great, but they are too expensive now. I did a lot of callers in 2008 and 2009, protecting the stock on both sides, but you can't do them now. They're too expensive. The tools we used in the past, I find very difficult right now. I was working a lot with negative correlationships. So if I bought AI, I'd offset it with cyber, but that isn't working anymore because everything falls at once. You have to have a really good understanding of how much downside you can risk and idea of which stocks people feel comfortable holding long term.
Yes, I mean,
So-
it's like really being able to ride the long-term wave, whatever happens. Is that what I'm hearing?
I love the stock market because
Yeah.
it's made my clients wealthy and given them a lot of opportunity. But on the other hand, I feel like a lot of people shouldn't be in the stock market right now because I think it's going to be a bumpy road and they get too nervous. I still believe in it. I think that most people should have 60, 70% in the market
Yeah.
because there's no alternatives out there to get rich. There's no alternatives for the middle class to
Yeah, that's
improve
true.
their wealth.
Yeah, and
So I love the
Carolann, I
stock
mean,
market.
yeah, I think that that's why it's so important to plan on around cash flow because, like you said, these losses are inevitable and that we've seen over and over again. They're so hard to plan. Planning your cash flow accordingly takes that risk off the table so
Yeah.
that if we do have a pullback, we're able to withstand that, allow our clients to get back up to where they were and get them making money again.
I'm a big believer in sector rotations and sectors more than individual stocks. I think you have to have utilities, you have to have government bonds, you have to have dividends for people who need monthly income. I focus a lot on the sectors, and then from those sectors, I pick out what I think my clients would
Hmm.
feel comfortable with.
Because there's always different sectors of the market that are doing well, and those ones that are doing poorly typically rebound. I think we've seen that with utilities, right?
Yes, it's
Over the past
always
2 years, worst
yeah,
performing sector in the market in 2023,
unbelievable.
and they've been explosive growth. It is
But
important to
how
have
goes
that.
I think you're so right. If on the other hand, you have something that's really doing well and you don't have to worry, they'll carry your market. But when the tech stocks fell the last couple of months, then utilities
Mhm.
come into play. The government mortgages come into place. I think having that diversification by sectors is really important. I'm glad you mentioned the utilities because we're going to do well with utilities the next couple of months. I think I got killed by nuclear
Well, then
utilities last
Amazon,
week.
right?
Definitely.
Amazon's going to do
Well,
great.
we're lucky to have you here with us at Fox Hill. It's amazing. I love talking to you. The experience you have is incredible. So, what
When you get
it's
old like me, you have a lot
fantastic.
of experience.
So it's great to have you here with us. What do you think is going to happen this week with the Fed on the 6th and 7th?
Well, one of the things I try not to guess, I try to have something that's going to do well. If the Fed's lowering rates a lot more, I have my utilities and I'll have my REITs and my pipelines and things like that to give me that income that I need
Hmm.
to stabilize accounts. If they raise rates, I just don't hold enough long term bonds to worry about. I have a lot of short term treasuries and tips, but I feel like you have to have that balance. If they raise rates, we were just talking about this before the show. I have a lot in things that I feel are necessities. And right now, with the AI world out there, I really feel people loneliness. 59% of the people in the United States suffer from loneliness right now.
Mm.
There's an explosion of people buying pets. I was just reading an article about China, how there's more carriages for animals, for dogs,
Wow.
than there are for babies. They're buying to push in the United States during COVID, especially, there was such a massive increase in pets. I'd like to look at things that aren't going to fall, even if the Fed raises rates. And I do think some of the veterinary stocks, some of the stocks that gear themselves to animals, I think that the AI that implants things in the brain to give people the ability to handle handicaps. I think that the one thing that will still do well will be some of the biotechs that use AI to determine
Mm.
cancer. So I try to find places that it doesn't matter what the Fed does, they're going to be
Gotcha.
separated from that.
I read an article that more was spent on pets than on children in aggregate last year, not per child.
Yeah,
So
it's funny.
total of
It's like a consumer discretionary, but it's
Yeah.
like a staple
It's
because of
funny.
what
This,
happens in the
this my
relationship
God
that people
sitting
get with
right
the
here
pet.
Oh,
beside
yeah.
So
you.
Yeah,
this newsletter I get, it's called Trends. It's put out by HubSpot. The pet supplements market alone is worth $2.4 billion, and it's growing. Dog supplements grew 74% in the past 5 years, and dog
Wow, I didn't even know.
probiotics, right, like gut microbiome for dogs, grew 115%.
I don't treat my dog well enough because I'm trying to get her to eat stuff. I don't can't find any dog food. When I find a dog food that my dog eats, I'm going to go in Shark Tank and make millions of dollars because fussy dogs
People
like
are
mine who
paying
don't eat anything.
$35 to $50 for dog massages.
I'm not that stupid.
hey, you got to keep them limber. You know, that's so funny. The probiotic dog. When I had a dog, unfortunately, he's since passed, but there were plenty of times we had to give him probiotics because he had stomach issues. Usually, how we,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
So we give him some type of light meal, whether it be like chicken and rice, and maybe mixing probiotics into his food. And that usually would
Oh,
any
wow.
stomach issue he had
Wow.
would get him on the right track.
You gave me an idea. I'm going to cook my dog chicken and rice tonight. Make
Yeah.
it see if it works, and then I'll go on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
So you think AI is driving this? I was going to go a different direction today, but you're saying AI is part of the reason why people are buying more pets because of loneliness? Maybe like social media too, work from
I'm
home.
I'm petrified of AI. I think it can be such a
Yeah.
negative and it can be such a positive, especially in the medical field. But I think not so
Mhm.
much AI, but social disconnects. People aren't mixing, they aren't getting out there. And I think that's why the pets
Yeah.
are doing so well. But I think AI is here. I think there's no way to get around it. We just hope the good guys get it, not the bad guys. I really think also that we have to be more open to the idea that AI is consuming all our energy. We have to look at the energy, not only for EVs and crypto, but for
Mhm.
just so many areas that we need it. So I've been looking very heavily at nuclear. And I think as AI expands, one of the alternatives you're going to see is nuclear power getting more and more acceptable. Though I lost money on every nuclear stock I had last week.
In the
But
long
I
run,
do
for
think
sure.
that we have to look at what the
Yeah.
repercussions of AI are. And the repercussions is that this is going to use up most of the energy in this country. And so I go to bed at night petrified of Taiwan semiconductor and how I can work around it. Because if the Chinese do something with
Mhm.
Taiwan, then that's going to impact what we get for chips in this country. We get over 90% from Taiwan or the subcontractors here. And so we need those chips for AI. And if we start seeing problems in those layers, I think we have to be really tuned into what we can do in our accounts
Mhm.
to protect people. Yeah.
AI is definitely not going anywhere. Just for context, ChatGPT launched in November 2022. It reached 100 million users in 2 months. Today, 200 million weekly active users are using it. And the energy that it requires is astounding. So every query you make to ChatGPT, and this is just ChatGPT, it's the same for, the others as well, Gemini
No,
and Claude AI.
we're talking.
It's
So
amazing.
How much
So
energy?
each query uses 2.9 watt hours, which is it's 10 times more than standard Google search. And then here's the crazy
Wow.
part. And this is why what's happening in the recent headlines that I think we're going to dive in for nuclear. By 2027, it's expected that AI will consume between 85 and 134 terawatt hours annually. That's the entire annual electrical consumption of Sweden, or enough power to provide 12.6 million US homes annually.
and if you throw in what's used for
Yeah.
crypto and EV, we will be consuming equal to 96% of what the United States consumes
It's
right now in a
astounding.
couple of
Yeah.
years. It's scary.
Because even the EV, it's only like 5% of cars, right? Which is projected to be like 25 to 30% of the cars on the road. I mean, or
States like
something along those
California
lines.
have said we're not going to allow gas powered cars on the roads in 2030.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to look at everything. You can't eliminate any source from seaweed. Yeah,
Yeah, or something, right?
technology,
That
yeah.
can,
I think wind power, everything's going to be viable. But I do think people are accepting nuclear, especially when they see what's happening with carriers and submarines over
Mhm.
the last 20 years. Now they're controlling the waste, and we don't have to worry about having the waste product from the nuclear. I just feel that it's hard because there is a time period. The small portable ones, like I have SMR and I've had it for a while. I remember when I first looked at it about 15 years ago, I was really interested in because I had a lot of relationships with people that were building submarines. And my husband was a carrier pilot and I carried it. Nuclear was so easily accepted there. They did it for everything. I felt comfortable, but talking to my clients to show you the difference, I couldn't get a single person into Dominion Resources or Duke Energy 10 years ago. I had explained to them that these were well-managed companies, but now all my clients will own a Duke or a Dominion or Veritas, or they'll own the nuclear and
Mm.
they're not nervous. They've accepted it. So once it gets accepted a little bit more broadly, I especially think the small nuclear reactor is going to be the wave of the future. So that's why I'm so heavy in it. But I remember in 1977 when Bobby Fischer lost to IBM's computer, that was AI. AI has been
Mm.
around for so long, but it never overtook our society. But now it is. I just think it's amazing that it's such a big part of our lives that we're not going to be able to avoid the robots. And
No.
that's my story.
Yeah, I don't know when it's
I'll
going
stop
to
talking.
put us all out of a job.
I think this is an industry that easily AI can take over a lot of, at least the stock picking and the risk analysis,
Yeah, so
arbitrations.
planning, I'm sure. Yeah,
I think the financial planning will still need a person there to
Yeah, it's definitely a
communicate with
human
other
business.
people,
Yeah.
but maybe not.
No, I think there's so many emotions in it that that's really where a great financial planner is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
Someone as a
And I
coach.
think that's just knowing your clients really well, knowing who is going to have a baby in, the next year or two, who's going to have
Yeah.
have a health problem or need to go into a nursing home. And the computer can help you calculate whether they have the money, but it can help you calculate what their feelings and emotions are going to be toward it. So I think that we're still going to be needed. I just don't know
I,
if we're
I
going to
think
be
we'll
needed
be
as
probably
much.
augmented where we can just do that much more work, handle that many more
Yeah.
trades, or process that much more data. I'm not sure AI replaces really. It certainly will replace much.
I feel like it's going to enhance. It's
Yeah.
going to enhance our job. I think it's like you said, it's going to allow us to do more work, look at more things, and be better at what we do than where we're currently at. And that's what I'm hoping is going to be the case for a lot of jobs. Obviously, these robots might replace a lot of labor and things like that. But I think even the people who are in labor, I think it's going to help them out because now they're going to have 8 hands as opposed to just their own. So that's where I think those individuals will
Yeah.
be able to get more done and things along those lines.
I
It's
don't want to keep taking over
No,
the
please.
massive
Yeah.
opportunity.
Well, in the 90s, my son's here. I should ask him roughly when. I was working with this man named Phil Blancano. There were only maybe 70 companies that had options. I used to use a lot of options to hedge, especially after a couple of the major crashes like in 87. It was time consuming. So I started working with this gentleman, Phil Blancano, who's on CNBC a lot now. He's a money manager, but he helped us develop a program. I would tell him what I needed, and he'd develop a program to do options. And once that happened, I could do blocks options for everybody in 5 minutes, which used to take me a day to do. It was scary to turn it over to a computer, but it was so helpful. When things got scary, I was able to just plug in this IST program and do these so quickly. So I've seen in my own life now, in my job, that yes, it's scary to think the computer could take it over and do the analysis for me, but it allowed me to protect people a lot more.
Mm.
And especially when you do a cover call and a caller, it's very handy.
Freed up your time, and now you spend it all talking to clients all day.
Yeah, which I love. I love. So I'm not
It allows you to do what
complain.
you're best at, having that human relationship with your clients and making it personalized.
I'm not sure talking is what I do best. I think that's probably my worst flaw, but that's what I do.
No. Well, I guess I think the relationship side of the business is super important. So if you can do more of that,
Oh,
but
so-
nuclear. I mean, recently we did cover on the show, Amazon's big investment. Microsoft just resurrected 3 Mile Island. Do you think nuclear will come and it's the only way?
I think we have to do everything. I'm not a big lover of wind power or solar because I think that they can fail, but I think nuclear could also be attacked in some ways and maybe not be there. So I think we have to have everything. I'm a big believer in natural gas too, geothermal. In my portfolios, I try to have a little bit of everything, but I also have a lot of Chevron and Exxon because they don't appear to be involved in nuclear or other alternatives, but they are involved in a lot of other alternative energy sources. So I just think we have to look at them all because something can happen to a nuclear plant and then everybody will run away, or something can happen to a water. I think water is one of the things that I'm afraid of more than anything. I've been in water stocks for 35 years and I haven't made any money on them, but water is such a scarcity all over the world. And I think that we don't realize. So I like to be in desalination products and water purification. My daughter worked for 20 years all over the world developing water issues and helping develop water products like a straw with a glass over water that can kill the bacteria. I am a big believer that water can be one of the biggest problems we have going down the road. I don't make money on it, but I think we all should have even if we don't think we're going to make money right away, those things that if there's a major catastrophe,
Mm.
like another major hurricane or things like that, that we have in our portfolios.
Yep, one of those black swan events,
That's
right?
right.
That are so
And then
scarce, but always seem to happen, right?
maybe only 1%, but
Mm.
half a percent, but something that you have in your account right away that you can
Mm.
add to it if
Yeah.
you feel like you need to.
Yeah, because in the United States, we have so much access to water, but then there's other places in this world where people
We have
travel
nothing.
6 miles, 7 miles just to get water, right? You know what I mean? And they fill up their jugs and have to walk it back and things like that. It
And
is,
there's ways to get it, like on the military ships, they have old programs of desalinization, and look what's happened in the Arab world. That's how they were able to increase their economy and thrive and become a world power because they fixed the
Mhm.
water
Yeah.
issues.
Well, I think it's really going to be a fascinating next 10 years, and it's going to be faster than that. But with AI developing as fast as it is, combined with all the other demands on the grid, I think nuclear will accelerate, like you're saying, Carolann. But I think the greatest power in this world is human ingenuity, right? And like when the human race is backed in a corner, people get really creative and we innovate our way out of the problem. So I think it's like finding those innovations. I think as a nuclear, they're making it safer, making it smaller. Hydrogen power could be a whole other thing that we haven't even explored.
I think you're gonna see cars later on. But also, when you said about I agree with you, when you push to the corner and something is bad out there, like Musk seeing these people with all these handicaps and starting to get interested in the military victims of brain damage.
Yeah.
Company he started Neuralink. It's unbelievable. Now it's implanted in your brain. I also had a client that had severe depression and they implanted a Neuralink kind of product in her head. And now she's not
Oh, wow.
depressed and she can function. She gets up every day and she's happy. I know another person that's having it done and it's amazing. So I think the Neuralink kind of idea scared
Me
me to
too.
death when I looked at it. I remember my mother had surgery. She was one of the first people that had 3 valves put in with
Oh, wow.
Intuitive's Da Vinci. At the time, it was more like robotics, but it was really robotics with AI. Now, the doctor has to be there,
Yeah.
but it could probably work on its own to help people in these
Oh, yeah.
major surgeries. It's so delicate and precise. Most of the eye surgeries now are done with AI, which I didn't realize until
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
just a
I
couple
mean,
weeks
I think
ago.
surgeries, I think that's still a big problem. I don't have the data point,
What's the surgery?
but
You're
that's
invested in an AI surgery company. What's it called again?
Well,
Intuitive
yeah,
Surgical. They have heavy AI
yeah.
investment.
They were basically a robotics, which the doctor kind of manipulated, but now it's really turned over
yeah,
to
I
AI.
think that, I mean, you can get down on a news event, or I think the news will want all of us sad. They only report the bad stuff. But overall, there's so
Outreach
many bright
closer.
things on the
Yeah.
horizon. With everything getting better, technology is going to help. Energy gets cheaper and more, there's more supply out there. So I do think there's a lot. I think, Bill, you said it best once. It was like, don't bet against the United States and don't bet against the world's innovation. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure you said that.
No,
That was
right.
Was
Buffett
it?
and Bill. Yeah. Well, at least Buffett's like, don't bet
Oh,
against the
okay.
US economy.
Yeah. Two. No, but I mean, yeah, I just think human innovation is like it's shown time and time again, and this is not just something we can look back over the last 100 years. It's like you can look back over
Yeah.
hundreds of years. We're constantly developing new technologies that help us move forward. With any new technology, there's always some type of pushback or how it's negative, right? How could it negatively affect a group of people, right? But eventually those issues get fixed and then we move forward and we're more productive and markets grow due to it. I just think that's going to continue to happen. Look back 10 years ago, 20 years, it's going to continue. If you look at all the innovation around us,
Hmm.
it's we're going to have hiccups, but we're going to move forward and markets are going to continue to
Yeah.
grow. I just don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. So
Yeah.
it's exciting.
I agree. I think AI can be the future that brings us
Mm.
peace in the world. It could be what could really hurt us because of advances in drones and weapons and stuff. So we have to get out there and kind of help these countries that are trying to survive and get them the water and food so they won't need fight. I think you're right. AI is the answer, but I'm also nervous about. I think
Oh, I
you're right.
know.
Yeah.
But even
There's-
on a lower scale, right, with like social media, there's a lot of great things about social media. You can kind of keep in touch with some people who maybe are living in different parts of the country. You get to see kind of what maybe some family and friends are doing, and there's a
The
lot of stuff.
telephone work.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff for creators, and but it's just a different touch point. You get to see certain things, and then there's a ton of negative stuff. Like you
What?
said, loneliness, there's other issues.
Bullying.
Hopefully the
Absolutely.
positives will continue to move forward and the negatives will dwindle. That's the ideal situation.
I'm glad I listened to all three. You see, now I'm coming out of here with much more positive
well,
feeling about social media.
A lot of the companies you're invested in too, Carolann's and Fox Hill is invested in a lot of these companies associated with all the things we've been talking about. From the industrial side, the artificial intelligence software side, utilities, all of it. We own companies in those different segments, and they're all definitely trying to make the world a better place. You can see it when they release their annual reports.
No, for sure. And I think that's the only way to look at the world. It's kind of like is the glass half full or half empty? To me, it's always got to be.
Yeah.
Well, it's half empty now.
Well,
So
this one is almost empty, but
because
Maybe it's the
Kind of
times,
crazy.
with the election and everything, you start getting
no, yeah.
worried
So,
about
I think, just to wrap it up, I suppose, I take away from this show, it's bright future, regardless of who's president tonight. It doesn't really matter. We're positioned well for the future, no matter what do you guys see coming up for the next year to come, 2025, and just to end it on a positive note.
I think we see
Yeah.
further market growth, maybe in the short term, some volatility, but U.S. is well positioned. Some people have said, "Oh, we had this mini recession, and now we're pulling our way out of it." I don't know. That's what we're
No,
seeing.
and I think just going back to the Fed, what they're going to do, the market is priced in like 98% chance of a 25 basis point cut.
Yeah,
Who knows?
Yeah. And I think that's why the market keeps rebounding. And I think if it doesn't happen, they'll just expect it to happen the next time around.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be that horrible.
the soft landing. That's about every
Soft
article
landing.
of the past 2
I-
years is soft landing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really just hoping that inflation continues to dwindle, and I hope whoever gets in office can, a lot of the stuff that I think people are struggling with, housing and food prices, I hope that stuff kind of can get in check and they can do some things to help out,
He had to-
people who have been struggling. You know what I mean? That's what I'm hoping, whoever comes in office, that they're able to help that, because I think they can do that and also continue to help the markets grow.
Yeah.
So
That's a hard task, and I just hope people don't get anxious and expect it to happen right away, no matter who's there trying to get the inflation down, especially if the Feds drop rates and even stimulate the
Yeah.
inflation a little bit more
it could
too.
spur it, certainly.
It has to be something very measured that they can't expect all of a sudden the food prices to
Yeah.
drop immediately or
Or house.
housing.
Mhm.
Mm.
I
But-
almost half expect the
Mm.
Fed to surprise us with a 50 basis point cut. That's just my prediction. We'll see.
Happy talking
think-
about
yeah,
it.
I know, right?
Well, thank you guys for
Yeah.
joining.
Well-
Another great show to all you listeners out there. We'll see you next week. And thank you again. Take care, guys.
Thank
All right,
you so much.
America. Bye-bye.
God bless America.